Now, sterling is under renewed pressure. We've been looking at a number of crosses for sterling this week as sterling approached levels of support, and in some cases now having broken them. Let's get up to speed with more of what's been happening behind this move in sterling. And Justin McQueen joins us from Daily FX. Justin, I know this is pretty much all about this new subject, or a return once again to an old subject, of Brexit.
We've seen or whispers of what we've heard from regards to the talks over Brexit is that ultimately the news flow has been somewhat bearish. Still a lack of sort of sign of notable progress in the talks as both parties maintain their red lines, and at the moment unwilling to compromise in order to actually reach an agreement. I mean, like we did see last month, again, the real point from Barnier was that on the four key issues, that a lack of progress had been seen, and ultimately we continue to see on the back of that, we saw some weakness on cable. Yes, we did see a bit of a retracement at the end of April up to 126. I don't really think there were levels really justifiable, given not only has the UK got to combat with coronavirus, but now the increasing risk premium over Brexit. As a reminder, it's only just over a month, about 6 weeks away now, until the deadline for the formal extension of the transition period. And keep in mind that after these talks now, that there's only one more round of talks and then an EU summit in June, in early June, before really that's pretty much it until the deadline for the formal extension. So of course, today, given the fact that we've heard whispers that ultimately the talks haven't exactly been that promising, and that a lack of progress still remains, that'll be probably the main sort of event that we'll be looking out for today. I don't really think there's much in the way of material data, and so therefore I think today, looking at cable, again, this week has just seen notable selling in cable, and preferably, I think in terms of a strategy for this, I'd probably caution against really sort of chasing the losses. I'd probably hope for a little bit of a bounce back. So short, probably a strategy would be to sort of short on rallies up to about 122.47. This was a level that we did see broken over the past couple of days. This was a key level that was holding. It had been tested a couple of times. Yesterday, we did see a defense of the April 6th low, which was roughly around about sort of 121.65. So the first test of that, we did see a bit of a bounce back and then move up to about 122.40. And ultimately, that's your sort of level that preferably I'd be happy to get in short in this trade. I think ultimately the prospect or the outlook for the pound doesn't look that promising. And it's also not just against the pound, against the US dollar. Keep in mind, with the US dollar yesterday, it was quite interesting that President Trump actually almost endorsed or sort of talked up a strong US dollar, stating that now is a great time to have a strong US dollar. So therefore, that ultimately reduces any sort of concerns that if we do get another spike higher in the US dollar on the back of the overall weak macro backdrop, then we don't have to have that risk that potentially there might be some sort of state intervention in the dollar in order to keep that appreciating notably. So therefore, that gives a bit more wiggle room for further upside in the US dollar, particularly against those weak currencies like the pound, like the euro. But it's not also just against cable. I mean, I think in terms of the overall move for cable, I think we could possibly get a break below this 121.65. I think that ultimately endorses a move to see us back towards a 120 handle. But also at the same time, a similar sort of setup for the pound against the Japanese yen. Ultimately, again, I'd sort of endorse a more short on rallies. Any sort of rallies you get in the pound, I think that presents an attractive opportunity to go for another wave lower. And similarly, I see with the pound against the Japanese yen, we can move back towards a sort of level around about the 129 handle. Again, we've broken some key levels in cable against the majority of pairs. If we take for cable again, just an hourly time frame. So as you can see here, we've seen some selling this morning, but in terms of your levels, in terms of probably a tester around about sort of 122.42, and that's the sort of a good level to go back short again.
Yep. Okay. All right, Justin, thanks so much indeed. Just want to quickly follow up with a couple of other crosses that we've been following this week. I think it's worth mentioning. Sterling against the euro, testing this level of support at 112.82. And as Justin was saying, you're looking at potentially if selling into any rallies on this. This level of support at 112.82 is important. 112.88 is where we are there at the moment. Sterling against the Aussie. disappeared below this line of support at 189.92. You're short on this as well with a stop at around about the 192 level. 189.10 is the trade at the moment. And we're knocking on the door of lows not seen there since, what's that date? The 20th of January. This year, so that's particularly weak as well. And one other cross just while we're talking about this, and that is sterling against the Canadian dollar, just disappeared in the last 10 or 12 hours or so below this level of support at 171.80, 171.32. Short on this with a stop at around about 173, looking there for support coming in at around about the 200-day moving average at 169.84.